Welcome to Secret Story, are you kidding me? I sighed to the attendant, cancelled. Yes sir, I'm sorry, she confirmed, I can get you on the first flight to Dallas tomorrow morning at 9:45. I shook my head and rubbed my eyes. I was trying to get to Dallas for Thanksgiving. Stuck in Wichita for the night due to a snowstorm and a cancelled flight. Yeah, let's do that, I said to the attendant. What the hell was I going to do now? All the flights out were cancelled. No hotel rooms were available. I could call my brother, Steve. He lived just a cab ride away from the airport. He wouldn't mind if I crashed on his couch for the night. Steve, I said as he answered his phone. Hey Terry, he replied, what's up, bro? Man, I was waiting on my connecting flight to Dallas, but it was cancelled. I was wondering if I could stay with you guys tonight. There aren't any rooms available. You're in Wichita? He asked. Yeah, I answered, the weather has everything screwed up. I know, he laughed, I'm stuck in Portland. I'm in your shoes. Oh, I said, okay, I guess I can crash here at the airport. No, man, he laughed, Danny is at home. I'll call and tell her to come to pick you up. You sure, bro? I asked, I don't want to be a nuisance. What nuisance? He laughed, she hates to be by herself anyway. You'd be doing her a favor. Thanks, bro, I laughed, you're a lifesaver. Steve was my baby brother. He was 15 years younger than me. Danny, short for Danielle, was his wife of 3 years. She was 3 years younger than Steve. They had moved to Wichita a year ago because of his job, which he quit only a few months later. He was a troubleshooter for a big computer networking company now. Always on the road, but he made beaucoup bucks. I was at the cab stand when Danny pulled up in her Lexus GX. She was tall, almost 6 feet, but Steve was 6'4". Slender and pretty. Steve was a lucky guy. She rolled her passenger window down and with a smile said, Hey, sailor. Going my way. I tossed my luggage in the hatchback and climbed into the passenger seat. After a kiss on our cheeks, she put the car in drive. I sat back, strapping my seatbelt on. Her cinnamon scent wafted through my head. I shook the thought from my head and we drove into the snowy night. I was in awe of her ability to drive through conditions like these. Aren't you nervous? I asked as we rounded dark snow-drifted curve. I'm used to it, she answered in her sweet voice, and the all-wheel drive helps. I nodded and held the door handle a little too tightly. After a 20-minute drive, and only 2 minor hydroplane incidents, we pulled into her garage. Come on in, she said as the overhead door slid shut behind the car. I grabbed an overnight bag from the rear and followed her into the warmth of the mudroom, where she kicked off her boots. I politely followed suit with my shoes. She led me to the living room where a fire was already burning in the fireplace. Tossing me the remote, she said, I already had a bath drawn. Make yourself at home. I'm going to soak for a while. I watched her walk down the short hallway and close the bathroom door. Her long legs filled out her yoga pants very nicely. Again I shook such thoughts from my head. I watched the fire for a few minutes before deciding to click on the television. To my surprise, Danny had paused a video of 2 young ladies she must have forgotten. The ride to the airport. The snow and dangerous road conditions. No way she meant for me to see this. I gawked for a few seconds then turned the TV off. I shook my head again. The fire needed stoking. I needed a drink. Anything to take my mind off what I had seen. Terry, yelled Danny, from the bathroom. Yeah, sis, I answered, trying to make myself realize how close she was to the family. She was my brother's wife for crying out loud. I walked to the bathroom door, what you need? I forgot to get towels from the laundry, she said, would you be a dear? Yeah, I laughed, I'll grab you one. I had to look around for a few seconds to find the laundry room, but I located it. Opening the dryer, I had to catch a couple of things that fell out. Stuffing them back in, I pulled a towel from the mix. Not noticing the tiny purple thong clinging to it, that I walked back to the bathroom and said, "I'll just hang it on the knob." "The door is unlocked, silly," she laughed, "you can come in." I'm still in the bubbles. Narrowing my eyebrows, I figured what the. I twisted the knob and slowly poked my head in. She was well hidden, but for her arms and shoulders. "Come on in," she laughed, "I don't bite." I smiled and said, "I'll just put this on the toilet lid." It was next to the tub, in easy reach. I set it down and started to back out when she laughed and shook her head. "What?" I asked, a confused look in my eyes. "You're so nervous," she laughed, "I'm just taking a bath." "Oh, and thanks." "What?" Again confused. She pointed at the towel. I had to laugh that time. I shook my head and said, "I figured you might need them." "Just the trousers?" she asked, teasingly, keeping the upper hand. "No pajamas?" I stammered like a kid. She laughed and said, "Get out of here, you." I laughed at her and even more at myself. Closing the door behind me, I walked back to the living room. The thought of my brother's wife. I shook it from my head again. Absently, I picked up the remote and pointed it at the TV, but caught myself, remembering the scene from before. I just dropped the thing on the couch, wishing I had a drink to calm my nerves. That I scanned the kitchen, on the opposite side of the bar. There was a bottle of wine on the counter and an empty glass. Danny must have been getting ready to open it before Steve called her to pick me up. That was an image to ponder. I knew Steve would have something stronger, but I was not one to meddle. The bathroom door opened. Daniel poked her head out, hair wrapped in the towel I brought her. "Fair warning," she said with a grin, "no peeping." My eyes narrowed again, but before I could look away, she walked out of the bathroom. She turned and walked to her bedroom. I averted my eyes, but it was too late. That in less than a minute, she returned in and sat on the couch next to me. "The bathroom is free," she said, "you can get a shower if you want." I started to stand up when she grabbed the remote and clicked the TV on. The same scene appeared, then as quickly as it came on it went to black. I saw her face burn crimson. She was embarrassed. It was my turn to laugh. "What the hell were you watching?" "Hey, a girl has needs," she said through her red face. "I try not to judge," I said with a laugh. She smacked me with the remote as I passed by to get to the bathroom. "Don't forget to get a towel," she reminded me. "Yep," I said as I grabbed my overnight bag. I tossed the bag into the bathroom and went to retrieve a towel. Closing the bathroom door, I discovered why she had not locked it earlier. There was no lock to lock. Surely she would respect my privacy. I was letting the water run over my skin, the steam clear my sinuses. It felt good. I had been in airports and on airplanes for all of 2 days. The bathroom, though small, was nice. Granite lined the glass shower enclosure while white marble adorned the floors and countertops. The walls were covered in floor-to-ceiling mirrors. I jumped with a start when there came a sharp knock on the door. "I need to pee, Terry," called Danny, through the door, which she had partially opened. I had been luxuriating, soaking up the hot water. "Okay," I stammered, "give me 5 minutes, I'll kick it into high gear." "No, take your time," she answered, "I'll be quick, and I promise not to stare." Yeah. I chewed my words. "Okay, I'll keep my back to you." A fat lot of good that would do. There were mirrors everywhere. I saw her to my left as she walked to the toilet. I turned to the right, to give her some privacy. There she was. The soapy water trailed over my shoulders, running down my back. I caught myself trying to hurry. But what good would that do? She was sitting there, on the toilet. Looking up to venture a glance, thinking maybe she would be finished. I was surprised to see her looking directly at my reflection. It was a losing battle. "Steve was right," she said with a smile, "you are hung." "You said you wouldn't look," I protested. "No, no," she argued, "I said I wouldn't stare. But that was worth looking at. Steve said it looked like a skinned squirrel." She laughed. "See, now you are staring," I protested, "are you about finished?" "Almost," she laughed. "I know how big Steve is," I said, trying to cover myself, "we grew up together." I could feel the blood, blushing my face in embarrassment. She pulled some paper from the roll by the toilet and wiped herself. She waved and teasingly took another look at my then left me to my shower. I shook my head with a snort. Danny was definitely not the shy type. She was direct and she enjoyed teasing. It took some amount of effort on my part, but thankfully, finally, I finished my shower and dried my body. I applied deodorant, spritzed a light mist of Axe body spray. I did check to make sure the door was closed before applying moisturizer to my legs. I needed at least one secret that I dug a pair of boxers and a t-shirt from my bag. "No," I grumbled. "I had forgotten my shorts." I shook my head then brushed my teeth. On the off chance that Steve would have a pair, I poked my head out into the hall. "Danny?" I called. She was sitting on the couch, watching who knows what, under a fluffy comforter. Turning, she smiled and raised both eyebrows. "Whatcha need, Terry? You think Steve has a pair of pajama bottoms that would fit me?" "That skinny," she laughed, "you are a foot taller than him and 30 pounds heavier." I made that old "yeah, you're right" expression. "He is the runt of the family." "No, I'm wearing boxers," I answered. She could see my t-shirt. "Come on, get under the comforter," she said, "you can help keep me warm." I walked quickly from the bathroom to the couch. My boxers were a bit on the baggy side so I was covered nicely. I noticed that the room was cooler than before and that the fire had died down a bit. "Should I put some wood on the fire?" I asked. "Please," she sweetly replied that I put a couple of the bigger logs on and stoked the coals. The fire quickly grew, warming the living room. I closed the fire screen then turned to see if she approved. A big smile turned into a bigger laugh when she saw it. Embarrassed, I spun around, tucking it back in, apologizing repeatedly. Danny laughed uncontrollably. It was infectious and I couldn't help laugh at the situation. I shook my head and plopped onto the couch beside her. Danny threw the comforter over me and snuggled close. She was watching Emerald cooking something and selling some countertop appliance. "So, how did your movie turn out?" I teased. "Shut up," she said, punching my arm, "don't act like you have never watched them." "Yeah, but you are a chick," I teased, "girls don't watch." "You say so," she grinned, "chicks do a lot you guys don't know about." "No, I don't know," I teased. Well," she said timidly that I laughed at her for her finally displaying some shyness about a subject. But again she turned the tables on me. "We look at our brother-in-laws," she said as I swallowed hard. Okay. I said, "You win." We laughed and she asked if I wanted anything to eat or drink. The thought of through my head. She seemed to read my mind and added, "From the kitchen." "I'm not hungry," I answered, "but a bourbon would be great." "Bourbon, it is," she smiled. She pushed the comforter off and stood. I watched as she reached up above the refrigerator for the bottle. Woodford, I could tell by the shape of the bottle. The good stuff. She took a glass from the cabinet and brought both it and the bottle, setting them on the coffee table. Again, my eyes glued to her. Probably a little more than half-hard, I reached for the bottle. She returned as I poured a shot and clumsily rolled the comforter onto the floor. I sat back to reveal a tent. Then quickly reached for the comforter, realizing I should have left well enough alone. I heard Danny breathe and, oh, goodness. I pulled the comforter over myself as quickly as I could, then apologized. "It's okay, Terry," she chuckled. She sat on the couch and pulled the comforter over herself. "Is this okay?" she asked. "I can sit in the glider if you're uncomfortable." "It's up to you, Danny," I answered. "I'm the one making things uncomfortable." She laughed. "Nothing to worry about." She got comfortable. She was truly beautiful. Her scent wafted from under the comforter when she would sip her wine or move at all. She sensed my discomfort and asked me if I was okay. "Yeah, just need to take a bathroom break." "Yeah, me too," she said. "You want to go first?" One hand on, the other pushing me up from the couch, I stood, back to her and walked past her sideways. "Are you still hard?" she teased. "Listen, Danny, I'm sorry," I said. Well, it's been a long time since I was this close to a woman. Especially as pretty as you, we are." "I know," she said. "What has it been, a year, since your divorce?" "2," I said as I walked to the bathroom, but still, I should be able to control myself. I sat on the toilet, head in my hands. Knowing I couldn't piss in this state, I just waited. A knock on the door. "I can put something on if it would help you," Danny offered. "I'll be okay," I answered. "You should be able to be comfortable in your own house." "I want you to be comfortable as well, Terry," she said, with no mock concern. "I'm going to be fine," I laughed. "As long as we have the comforter, I can be discreet." Danny laughed. "Hey, brother-in-law, it's not bothering me. In fact, it's kind of a compliment." "Well, since you feel that way," I began, "Steve is one lucky man. To have a beautiful lady like you, I mean." "That's sweet," Danny said. "I could just hug you." "We better save that for later," I suggested, "when I'm being discreet." We both laughed until she told me to hurry up. I guess she needed to pee. She was tapping the door with her fingers impatiently. "I'm giving you fair warning," she said. "I am coming in if you don't hurry." "I'm trying," I said nervously. I knew she wasn't kidding. The door flew open, and she hobbled in. "Pinch it off and get out of the way," she said. I did as she ordered, backing away from the toilet. Sometimes modesty had to take a back seat. She looked up at me, shaking her head. "I'm sorry," she said. "I couldn't hold it anymore." "I guess discretion is out the window," I said with a laugh. "Sometimes you just have to do what you have to do," Danny laughed. She also didn't hide the fact that she was staring at mine. I was tired of being coy. If she wanted to look, I wouldn't stop her. I decided to lean against the cabinet while she finished her business. Danny shivered. I walked back to the toilet and did my best to empty my bladder. Just a trickle, it would take a while. Danny surprised me by leaning on the mirrored wall and just watched that. I looked at her with a stupid grin and asked, "What are you doing?" "Nothing, just looking." She smiled naughtily. She laughed and shook her head. "You give me a little privacy," I returned, "and I would do just that." "No," she said like a disappointed child, "I want to watch." Thinking that she was teasing, I took it a step further. "That," I said, "isn't a spectator's sport. If you want to watch, you have to help." "Okay," she quickly agreed. "Like what? Give you some encouragement? Or do you just want me to do it for you?" It was like I had been hit by a Mack truck. I stood speechless, mouth agape. She just raised her eyebrow and shrugged. "Well?" she asked. "Which one?" "Well, I choked, all of the above." She didn't need to be asked twice. She had to be teasing me again, was my assumption, but in less than a heartbeat, with a short step backward, I took a moment to soak up the beautiful vision in front of me. She reminded you of a young Kelly Preston. A runner and a swimmer. "Bring it to me, Terry," she whispered. That I took the 2 steps that separated us and stood in front of her. She looked up at me with a sweet smile that I lost myself in her blue eyes, in her wanting smile. It seemed that she was stalling, waiting. Maybe she was having second thoughts. Guilty feelings, maybe changing her mind. But her smile gave lie to that notion. She wanted to, I could see that. I swallowed hard. My eyes blurred. The feeling was all-consuming. I lost all sense of hearing in sight. I returned, eventually, to reality. "You're a witch," I managed to say, amazed at what had happened. My brother was truly lucky. She saw me watching her in the mirror and smiled. Danny turned the water off and stepped out. "I'm going to have to go to the garage to get some boxers," I said as she dried herself. "Don't worry about it," she said with that same sweet smile, "we have the comforter." You know, I laughed at her and said, "Okay." She tossed the towel at me and ran from the room. "Last one to the couch is a rotten egg." I ran after her like two kids on a playground. "The fire needs some work," she said, "I'll take care of it. You did it last time." I let her up and watched her open the fire screen. She finished her work on the fire and returned to her seat. "Are you okay?" she asked, "Am I hurting you?" "No," I assured her. She spat a laugh and said, "I'm so sorry." "Let me do, if it were any better," I whispered. I had access to what I wanted. "Are you ready?" I whispered. She took a deep breath, "Yes," with a playful grin. "Are you sure?" Driven by her approval, no preamble. No warning. I did not disappoint her. My brother was truly lucky. The television made that sound. You know, the one when there is a tornado warning or something. The computer-generated voice announced, "All schools closed, all flights cancelled until the blizzard warning ends. Expected to last through Thursday." It went on about counties and bridge closures and all that. It was Monday night, and it looked like I would be here until Thursday. I guess I had nowhere else to go.